everyone, it's Amber Spotted Elk at the Paper Owl and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I know my filming has been a little bit sporadic. I apologize for that. The holiday season has definitely been a little bit crazy for me this year, as I'm sure it has been for all of you. My most recent video was a Christmas DIY gifts video, so there are some great ideas on there, definitely some things you can do last minute. So if you haven't seen that video, definitely go check it out. Today we have 6 Dollar Tree Christmas DIYs for you, and these are really, there's a couple in here that are holiday season, but a lot of them can be used for the whole winter season, which is great. And I don't know about you, but I love to continue decorating throughout the winter season. I'm in Colorado. Our snowiest months here are March and April, so it definitely keeps that winter vibe alive for much longer. But if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Comment below, let me know which project is your favorite. And as always, if you'd like to become part of the Paper Owl family, subscribe, hit that bell button so you get notified every single time that I upload. And without further ado, let's get started. Hello everyone. So I've got these candy canes here from the Dollar Tree, as well as some jute that I got from Hobby Lobby, which was originally $18.99, but I did get 50% off. So such a great deal. I mean, for what is that, $9 is amazing, or whatever the half of that is. And then I'm just taking that and wrapping it around these large candy canes. So I'm hot gluing the first couple loops around here and making sure that that's nice and secure. And then once I have that nice and secure, I don't use hot glue through the rest of this, so until I get to the other end, and it turns out amazing. You don't have to use a lot of hot glue. And then I'm taking a lighter and burning all the little fuzzies off of here. It really does give it a much cleaner and nicer look. I do take my scissors and cut off some of the larger fuzzies on there. If you feel at all unsafe burning those off, keep a glass of water nearby, but it is really, I've never had an issue with it. I take one of the Dollar Tree Christmas trees and I lay the branches kind of flayed out like that. And then I take the Dollar Tree garland ties and just kind of loop them around the middle in between kind of each of the rows to fill that out a little bit more. Now I know everyone on YouTube has their own little way of filling these out a little bit more. If you like the more sparse look, you can absolutely leave them how they are. I have actually left them as is before, and it's its own little look. And so I take those to fill it out, and then I decide which picks I'm going to use for this swag. And so I love these holiday picks from the Dollar Tree that have the apples on them, but for the life of me, I have not found the perfect project for them yet, but I'm going to, I promise you. So I tried the apples out first, and then decide that that's not the look that is making me happy. So I changed my mind. I use these pine cones and I end up loving that. These are kind of the more skinnier, long pine cones. And then I do take some other greenery. The pine that looks a little more realistic, and then some little cedar pieces, and that adds some extra dimension and texture to this swag. I do take some of that eucalyptus from the Dollar Tree. I love that. I think it looks great. I've seen similar eucalyptus at Hobby Lobby and Michael's, and I promise you it was nowhere near $1. So this was such a great deal. If you end up seeing it, pick it up. I mean, you could use it definitely year round even. They had like a silver and a gold, and then almost like a goldish silver champagne-y kind of color. So I take those, and anytime I make a little piece, I like to take the twine and wrap it in the middle to create a nice base. Now that the candy canes are wrapped with the twine and we've got the swag done, I am going to attach these together. Instead of using a whole bunch of hot glue, I use a little bit of twine and I wrap it around the top and bottom and then from side to side to make sure that it's really secure. I do not want this thing like, one of the candy canes like drooping down or like, flailing around. So I make sure that with the twine, it is nice and secure. And what's nice about this is if I do decide I want to use these candy canes for something else or the swag for something else, I will be able to do that without having a whole bunch of hot glue that I have to work around. So anytime I can do that, I absolutely will. So I give it a little shake there and it is good. You can see I added those white flowers on as well as that little bow at the top, and that's just like a little 3-looped bow. Nothing crazy. And again, here I'm using the twine to attach the swag to the candy canes, and this turned out so cute. I absolutely love it. And honestly, for the base products were $3, the floral picks maybe a couple bucks. Like, this is such a large piece for $5. I guarantee for something like this in the store for around the holiday times, you'd easily pay like $30. So I am in love with this. It goes great with my decor. Next up, we're making a pine cone wreath. So I love this. I used actually like I had this metal hoop, and I think it was from a splash guard from the Dollar Tree. And I put some of the Dollar Tree garland around that just to create a little bit more of a base for the pine cones to hang on to. And then I did attach my hanging element, which is just a piece of kind of like burlap gold ribbon. And I do recommend doing that. How attaching your hanging element, especially if you're using a twine or a ribbon, to do that first before you attach your pine cones. It will save you a lot of headache getting it on after. So definitely do that before you attach the pine cones. I originally was going to use that more rounded wreath that you saw at the beginning there, but I kind of tried to lay out a few pine cones just to see how it was going to look, and it just wasn't the best shape or the best form for using the pine cones, and so, or attaching the pine cones. So this kind of more flat wreath base, made up wreath base, is worked out so perfectly. And I'm attaching these pine cones just kind of hodgepodge, just throwing them together kind of, and no real like pattern or making sure they're in like one direction or anything like that. I'm just basically putting them on here, grabbing them, making sure they fit well, and that's it. I don't want it to be uniform. You could definitely do that with this project if you wanted and make it a little bit more clean, but I wanted this to look more rustic, and so that is what I did with mine. And I basically filled it out, and then I'm using all different sizes and shapes of pine cones. I grabbed a couple bags last year on clearance at the end of the year, one from Walmart and one from Michael's, and I think I maybe paid a couple bucks, if that. And then I've got just some random pine cones from other picks and things like that. And then I have a bag of the little Dollar Tree tiny pine cones, and I use those to kind of fill in some spaces. And I do kind of an outer rim of pine cones as well, and that just kind of filled this out more. And then I take this pine, I think is what it is, and it's the nicer kind, I feel like not the kind that comes in the Dollar Tree garland. And I put that sticking out in the middle, And I feel like that just kind of zhuzhed it up a little bit more and added an extra touch to it. And I really like that. I really love that rustic um, holiday look. And I feel like adding that greenery in there definitely adds that to it. Almost that Scandinavian, or, even that cozy Christmas cabin kind of feel. I just added my greenery in the middle of the wreath. You could definitely add it on the outside. I just wasn't feeling that vibe for this. So I just stuck to the middle, and I think it turned out so cute. And I am using the Gorilla glue sticks in my hot glue gun, and I love those. I honestly use them for all my projects, and even with these pine cones, it held them together so well. It felt so sturdy. It felt strong. It didn't feel like any one of them was like loose or ready to fall off or anything like that. And I am just so happy with how that turned out. And even, like carrying it over to hang it up and placing it on the wall, like nothing felt like it was moving around. So happy with that. Next up, I've got this bucket that I got from Walmart on clearance after summer. I think it was honestly like 50 cents, and it was kind of this clear blue bucket. I think it's like a serving bucket or something like that to put like drinks in. But I had spray painted this with Rust-Oleum's white matte spray paint and put some twine around the handles and around the bottom. And I had done that for a different project that I didn't end up doing. And so I've just had this kind of laying around ready to be used for something. I'm taking some different fabric to see what I like the look of best. And so far, nothing was really like catching my eye, but I ended up using this automotive cloth from the Dollar Tree. And I'm taking some of their oversized ornaments, which I absolutely love, and I have more of a gold theme going on this year with my decor. So I put the red balls down in the middle kind of as a nice base, and then I add the gold ornaments on the top. And I also had some leftover ornaments from just like my tree that I didn't use, and then some of the Dollar Tree ornaments as well, like the medium sized ones. And I put those in to add some different texture and sizes and all of that. And I just love this. I think I'm going to be setting this just on the ground to add some extra decoration there. I love just, ceiling to floor, adding in all kinds of holiday feelings around the house. So, and then I put this plaid, like pink and gold bow together. I end up not liking it, and so I put too many loops on originally. And so I make my loops a little bit smaller and then turn this into, again, like a 3-loop bow. And I love the way that this looks. I put that on, and I also make some tails for this bow. And I just think it just added that nice little extra touch. I think it was fine before, but I really like the bow. I think it gave it a more finished look, in my opinion. So, what's great about this is you can use your leftover ornaments, anything you have laying at the bottom of your tree decorating box, and fill up a container and make it beautiful. This little sleigh I got from Goodwill for 99 cents, and I love it. We're going to make another little ornament collection here, and I just take some different size balls, again, some leftover ornaments I had, a couple different sizes of ornaments from the Dollar Tree, and this created so many different shades of gold and textures and sizes, and I just love that little collection in this sleigh. I use one of the pre-made bows from the Dollar Tree. I do dovetail the ends myself. They have them dovetailed, but they have them like rounded off, and I don't like that look. And so I cut the dovetails to be a little more sharp. I don't know why, it bothers me that how they have them. And so I make my own little spray here for the top or for the front of the sleigh. And I think this really finished it off. And, you know, it just looked a little bit plain before this. So I take a couple different types of greenery. Again, that kind of more cheap greenery from the Dollar Tree, and then some of that more high end looking pine. I think it's pine. Again, I put that twine in the middle to create a nice little base, and I'm going to add some of those gold Dollar Tree like mini poinsettia flowers, and some of the red berries on the side there as well. And I feel like that just kind of brings everything together. It's got the gold, it's got the red. We've added the green in for some extra color and festiveness. And I love this little sleigh. It turned out so cute, and it's nice because it's so versatile. Like you can use it and make like a little flower arrangement in there and do all kinds of things with it. And it was only $1. Love finding good deals at the thrift store. Next up, we are going to be making this Mary sign, and we're using that Santa sign from the Dollar Tree, some paint stir sticks. I believe I got at Walmart for like 98 cents for 3 of them. And then I am going to take the Santa sign, cut it down so that it fits better. The Mary sign fits better on it. And so I'll cut that down. And then I also remove the paper from that Dollar Tree sign. Sometimes the paper comes off pretty easily, and I love when that's the case. I feel like it just makes it a nicer working material versus painting on top of that like sticker paper or whatever it is. I'm scientifically measuring out how big I want it with the stir sticks, and I'm using my stir stick to then cut this down to size. And of course, I pull it up after I've gone a few rounds with the craft knife and decide that it is definitely a little bit crooked. So instead of leaving it like that, because I know it would have bothered me, it would have messed with the frame we're going to do, I get my ruler out and I do it correctly. So learn from my mistakes, people, and just use your ruler the first time. Don't try and cut corners by not reaching your hand over to grab the ruler that is literally right there. Like, this is my life. So I make my lines straight now. And then you don't have to cut like all the way through with the craft knife. Once you get a few passes through, you're able to just bend it and it will snap off. Like, this stuff is not, like super thick product at all. There were little extra pieces there, so I take my craft knife and just cut those off. Make sure we have a clean edge. And then now is when I take that paper off and I just start at one edge where there is a little bit of excess hanging over and kind of start pulling that up. And it was nice. It came off in pretty much like 2 large pieces. There were like a couple small stragglers, but they pulled up so easily. And I just feel like I don't know, I like working with a nice clean base like that versus painting over the top of something. And then we have a nice back on there still as well. So I mix a little bit of water with my Waverly White chalk paint, and with this side of the sign, I feel like it just tends to like soak the paint up or do something, or it's like more dry, so the chalk paint is harder to get on here or something. And so I like to put a little bit of water on there to just make that a tiny bit more smoother for application purposes. And then once that is, or I set that aside to dry, and then I measure my paint stir sticks and just use my miter box to cut a straight line. I'm not using it for a diagonal line or anything. I like this miter box. It works well. And so I cut my stir stick, and then I decide that I'm going to again cut these in half lengthwise so that they're smaller pieces like you see here. And I'm laying these out around the sign, making sure everything measures up and looks good and nothing's off or needs to be taken down a little bit more or anything like that. And it looks good. I'm happy with it. Originally, I was going to leave the frame flat like you see it here, but I do end up changing my mind, and you will see that here in a few moments when we're placing it together. So now that it's all kind of up to par, I am going to take those stir sticks and use my antique wax to stain them essentially. So you can absolutely use a real stain. You can do the kind of faux stain where you use like a brown paint and mix it with water to create that kind of faux stain look, which is great. You can really mess with that version on how dark or light you like it, just as you can do with the antique wax. If you want it darker, you can make a couple extra passes with the antique wax, which I love. I think that's so nice, especially if you don't want to get the actual stain out and go through that whole process, because it does get messy and the smell does get to me sometimes. And so if I'm not feeling it, I will use the antique wax, or I will use the brown paint with water faux stain look. So and then as a reminder, always take sander, whether I've got the sanding sponge from the Dollar Tree, you could use just a piece of sandpaper, whatever, to sand down your edges and just kind of clean up anything that might be poking out on those painter sticks after they've been cut. And that will just give them a much cleaner look. And then I do take a paper towel and some water and wipe these down. It's always good to start with a clean surface before you're painting anything or staining anything. It just helps so much versus having any sort of those sanding chunks on the pieces, whatever. It's not going to look nice if they're not nice and clean. So you always want to prep the stuff you're working on and make sure that it's clean and ready to go. And so I just take that same paper towel and dip it into my antique wax and put that on these painter sticks, and I love the way that it turned out. I did want to go for a more dark stained look, and so I do go over these essentially kind of twice with the antique wax, just to make sure I get the darkest color that I want to get. And again, that is just personal preference, so you can absolutely make them lighter if you want to. You could paint these if you want them a different color and don't want them to have that stained look. It's just whatever your preference is, whatever you like the look of, whatever goes with the decor in your home, then absolutely do that. And then next up, we're taking some scrapbook paper and we're tracing our Mary sign on here. I am going to do the reindeer in a different color, so we're tracing that as well, and then just cutting it out. And it turns out so cute. I love this. I decided to make the reindeer the full reindeer versus making the full R, so you could really go either way. And then I take some Distress Oxide ink and go around and do that around the edges of the scrapbook paper. I feel like it gives it a more finished look. If you're using scrapbook paper, a lot of times it'll be a white cardstock base, meaning that when you cut it, you see the pattern paper on the front, and then the back is white or the inside fibers are white. And so if you look at it from the side, you see that white paper. For whatever reason, I don't like to see that. But that's just a weird thing that I have when I'm working with, especially like the patterned scrapbook paper. So I do like to go around my edges with whatever color is, matches. I like the brown for this. You could definitely do a black depending on the type of paper you have. And I just go around the edges and fill that in. And it does give it kind of a nice distressed rustic look to it with that brown around there, which I really like. And then I do take some Mod Podge to adhere that to the sign. I feel like that worked really well. I do spray my paper a little bit prior to putting the Mod Podge on. I've heard that somewhere that's just a nice little trick to do in order to help with bubbles and to make sure your paint's like not drying out on you, or not paint, but your Mod Podge is not drying out on you right away, especially with kind of these larger pieces. But I add the Mod Podge, I place it on the sign, and then I go back through and I see if any of the corners are lifting or if there's any spots that are coming up. And I just take the little brush and Mod Podge and kind of fill in those spots. So that it's nice and adhered and it's not going to start like popping up one Christmas and look not nice. So next up, we are placing our frame around here. The backing got like a little bit warped or bent or something, so I was just kind of bending it back straight. It actually worked out pretty well. And here I still hadn't decided that I was going to put those pieces of the frame upright, which I think just looked so much better in my opinion for the look I was going for. So I did put these on flat to start out here, as you can see, and that's a cute look too. I just really like it the other way. So I'm glad that I made that decision fast enough. I was able to pull those off and there wasn't like a lot of hot glue all over the place or anything like that. And so I'm still haven't decided. And then here we go. I turned it and love the way that it looked. So I'm putting those now in an upright position so that it looks almost like a shadow box, or has that deepness to it like a shadow box. And so I am just so in love with the look of that. And so that's how I continue to attach the other pieces of this frame to add a nice touch to the Mary sign. I really love that. I don't think I mentioned this. I did distress the white backing a little bit with the antique wax, just a tiny bit. Now we're going to be using these pine cones, these rectangle wooden pieces from the Dollar Tree, again the antique wax, and putting them on the rectangle pieces. We're going to attach those with some of the Gorilla Glue sticks, and then I cannot think of anything while I'm talking right now. Oh my goodness. So I apologize if I'm saying like and and whatever. My brain is just like not alive right now. So apologies to all of you. So I just said it again. Oh my goodness. Anyway, we are going to put some popsicle sticks on the back of this just to add some more stability versus just having that thin line of hot glue in the middle. So I do take some Dollar Tree beads. I have a bag that I had previously painted to make them look almost that like wood color or almond color. and I'm just making tiny little feet on those. And then I'm using the Dollar Tree snow spray here for these pine cones, and these are some leftover pine cones from the pine cone wreath. There is this giant one here that I found in one of those bags, and it is literally like 6 or 7 inches tall. It is just huge, and I was like, I have to use this. I have to create something with this. It is just so big and so beautiful. And so I decided I was going to create this little mini pine cone forest. And I'm putting some greenery, which I also sprayed with the snow spray. I'm actually impressed with the snow spray from the Dollar Tree. It comes in a smaller can, but honestly, you don't need a whole lot. Like, a little goes a long way with it. It really does. And so I create this spray at the front of my pine cones just to add some greenery in there. And again, I did put the white spray on there to make sure it all looked kind of cohesive. And added a little to the berries as well that are on there. I glue the pine cones down, and then I do add a couple little extra pieces of greenery kind of laying on the ground, peeking through the pine cones. And I feel like that just added a nice little touch because I felt like it was kind of bare there where the pine cones are. I was going to decorate the pine cones as if they were Christmas trees, but nothing was really looking great or how I envisioned it with the different balls and beads and stuff I was going to use as ornaments. And so I decided that I was just going to do the snow spray and leave it as is, and they're beautiful on their own. So I love the way that this turned out. It was, I mean, quick and easy, just the leftover pine cones and a couple of those rectangle pieces. You get 6 in a pack from the Dollar Tree, and then, of course, some little florals I had laying around. So this was so inexpensive to make and just such a cute little piece to add anywhere. I mean, it could go on a side table, it could go on a coffee table. Like, it's not a big giant piece that would be taking up a lot of room. So really love that. And here's our pine cone wreath. I'm so happy with how this turned out. I just love the simplicity of it. You know, nothing really extra added on here. It just looks natural. It looks rustic. I am so happy with this pine cone wreath. I think it is just gorgeous. Gorgeous. And then we've got our bucket of ornaments, and I'm so happy with how this turned out as well. So simple and easy, and just adds some color and texture and all of that to this nice little corner of my home, and I'm just really happy with that. And then, of course, our sleigh ornament collection here, and so happy with this too. I like that it is a good size. Again, it could fit in a smaller space, which is so great, and really just adds that little bit of extra zhuzh anywhere you want to put it. And then, of course, our candy cane swag. Again, so happy with just how large this piece is, and the price of making it was so incredible, and it really took almost no time. I thought it was going to take a long time to wrap the candy canes, but it really did not. So I'm so happy with how these all turned out. Please let me know which of them is your favorite, if you're going to be recreating anything. Here is our Mary sign, and again, I'm so happy that I switched the layout of my frame and went for that upright look, so it has that depth to it. I really am so happy with how that turned out. Again, with the candy canes, I'm just wanting to get one last peek at them because they're so cute. They're so large and just such a great piece to have you know, anywhere in your home. You could really even set this up against a wall or in a corner, and it would look great on its own like that. So definitely let me know if you're going to try any of these out. I am so happy with them. And then, of course, we have got our little pine cone forest. And I love this. I set this just on a place that I have some of my plants, and it just spiced up that area and added some Christmas to that corner of my home. And I love doing this. I mean, I'll be putting stuff up until Christmas and then throughout winter. Thank you guys so much for watching, and